Okay, so that's definitely one way not to start this show. What's up, everybody? This is Darren from Clef Grooves, back with another edition of Getting Better Audio at Home. But this week, we're going to be talking about how to get rid of that nasty feedback sound using a mixer when you have your live events. So first off, I've got to apologize for that loud, nasty noise at the very beginning of the video, but I thought it was the easiest, quickest way just to show you what exactly is feedback. Sometimes people don't really know exactly what to call that sound, so the technical term is feedback, and that sound is simply the microphone picking up the output of your speaker, which you don't see right to the right of me here in my video, but I do have a PA speaker set up. It's not on a stand, this is just in my room here, but imagine if you were at a live event and you're speaking to your audience, you're motivating them, you're encouraging them, but every single time you walk near one of your speakers or in front of one, you get that nasty noise, and you just don't know how to get rid of it other than stay away from the speaker. Well, now you might have a whole section of your audience that you might not be able to engage if you like to move around and talk to the crowd because you're afraid of that feedback. Now you're distracted from your message because you're trying to figure out where can I step, where can I not step. You know, you get the picture. You have too many other things to be worried about rather than having terrible sound at your live events. So I have a very, very basic mixer in front of me here today. And that's what I'm going to show you. Is last time we talked about the importance of why you should consider having a mixer in your audio setup for your live events, and some of the benefits of the one that I just got can provide you. Well, even a basic mixer can give you some nice quick access to some of the tools you need to get rid of some of that feedback. So what I would like to do is change the angle on the camera here and kind of talk about some of the settings here. Now, I do realize that some PA speakers and things, if you get the nicer ones nowadays, they do have EQ settings and things on them. But again, having a mixer is just so much easier and quicker than having to go behind the speaker during an event to make some kind of a tweak or an adjustment. Again, we're not trying to make you an audio guru here, but just some basic tools and tips that will really help your events go well for live sound, as well as, you know, getting better audio at home, because isn't this what this whole series is about anyway? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and change the angle here so you can look at the mixer that I'm working with today, and let's go ahead and see how we can make some adjustments to fight that nasty feedback sound. Okay, everybody, so the tripod just wasn't doing it for me. I decided to go handheld, and I'm going to try to make this camera stay steady as possible and explain everything as I'm looking through my lens here. So how do you fight the EQ when you're at a live event using a mixer? And a very basic one at that, because that's what it is that we have here. Well, let me just explain really quickly here. I've got my microphone plugged into channel 1, and that's all we're going to concern ourselves with today. But as you can tell, all the rest of the channels look very similar across the board here. And then we have our out, this cable here, which is what's feeding the signal to the loudspeaker that you heard that noise from earlier. So again, how do we do this? Well, one of the first things that you can do is adjust your EQ settings. So that section on this mixer are the blue knobs. Now, every mixer is made just a little bit differently, but if you start seeing where you have high, mid, or low, that's probably a pretty good indicator that that is your EQ section. Now, some mixers are nicer than others. Some aren't quite as nice as this one. So this one, I have very basic controls over the EQ. All I have is gain control, how much I can boost a signal or how much I can cut a signal. I'm sorry, how much I can boost a frequency or how much I can cut a frequency. Some mixers even have extra knobs on them where it lets you select the frequency that you want to cut or boost. And then some mixers still yet are even nicer where they have Q control. And if you've watched my series earlier, you know what Q is. But I'll just go back and take a look at the series that I put together on how to get amazing sound for your interviews, because I kind of cover how EQ works in there. And believe it or not, for live sound, a lot of it is quite similar. EQ is EQ. Now, there are some different approaches and things and techniques, and we're going to get into that today. So pretty much you think about how you hear those high, shrill sounds, and I will demonstrate one more time. Watch your ears, watch your speakers, and you've got 3, 2, 1. Yes, you saw those meters clip out. Yes, folks. How do you fight that sound? Well, first of all, let's just take a look at where my EQ is set on this mixer. Obviously, the high is cranked, right? It's up there. Now, obviously, I'm not going to set this way anytime. Unless it just happens to work and that's where I wind up at. Every room is different. Every system is different. But right away, those frequencies were in the higher end. So notice where my gain is on that. So I'm going to cut that a little bit. And now let's point the microphone at the speaker again. So notice that shrill was gone. We started to get a little bit in the mid-range, though. You heard a little bit of that if your ears caught it. So it's maybe just a matter of bringing down some of your mid-range. So there's one way that you can do that, right? Is you're just listening to your ears. And the only reason that I'm making these selections the way I am is because I have no other options with my EQ but to listen to the frequency, think about where I think that sound's coming from, and just cut that particular frequency. That's all I have control over on this mixer. Now, if you have a mixer that has Q control and a frequency knob where you can select your specific frequencies, now you're getting into a little bit more of what you can do. One of the things that you can do is think about the sound of that frequency. Is it very high, shrill frequency? Is it more bassy? Is it more mid-range? Because if it is, one of the easiest things you can do if you have the ability to select your frequencies is tighten your Q control if you have one, and then you gain up. You boost that frequency of whatever it is you think where the ringing is, and you use that selector and sweep through the frequency spectrum with your frequency knob. And as that noise gets to be its worst, that's where you can make the cut. And again, if you have your Q knob on your mixer, one other thing that you can do is turn your Q all the way up. And when you do that, that helps you further isolate exactly which frequency is doing all that ringing. That way, when you get to that noise as you're sweeping through the spectrum and you hear where it's at its absolute worst, all you do is come back to your gain and you just bring the level back down. You don't cut it all the way out because you still want some of that frequency there. You just gain that frequency down just enough until the ringing stops. And there you have it. So there's one way using EQ, even on this very basic mixer, that you can get rid of some of that nasty ringing sound, that feedback. Now, if it's just terrible, no matter what you try with EQ and all of that, maybe you might just have your system a little bit too loud. So one of the other things that you can do is come right over here to your master fader, and maybe you just bring that down a little bit. So I brought that from 0 to -6. So I took it down 6 decibels. Obviously, again, you don't want to bring it down too much because you want your audience to still hear you. But notice at -6 decibels, walking by the speaker, simulation here, look at that. No ringing. But can you still hear me? Let me put this up to my mouth. Check, check. Sounds nice and loud still, right? So again, there's a couple ways with a basic mixer that you can fight feedback. And there it is, the importance of EQ yet again, even in your live sound. You can see how it benefits you, even on this mixer here that has very limited EQ options. I mean, as you saw, I didn't really have the ability to choose what frequency these were set at. It just tells me I have a high band, a mid band, and a low band. But I still had control over the gain or the volume of those different EQs. And by using that gain to help try to cut some of those frequencies, we saw how immediately we had good results with getting rid of some of that feedback. And then overall, as a last resort, if you are still fighting that feedback, we learned about how maybe it's just a matter of you simply pulling some of your gain down on your mixer and bringing the level down just a little bit before you start getting that feedback. So here's to getting better audio at home or at your live events, and we'll see you next time, guys.